Lei, you need to hand over that 500,000. Today. Su Jiangwo's ashtray slammed against the coffee table with a crack that echoed through the living room. Zhang Yufin didn't miss a beat. Her finger jabbed the air, stopping inches from Guo Lei's nose. Your wife's only got this one brother. He's getting married, buying a house. If you, as his brother-in-law, don't chip in, who will? Are you just going to stand there and watch the Su family line die out? Su Xiaohui sat wedged between her parents on the sofa, head bowed, fingers twisting together. Her voice came out thin as thread. Honey, Mom and Dad are just thinking about house future. Don't we still have some savings? We could use it to help out just for now. Guo Lei stared at the three faces in front of him. The same look on every single one.
Pure entitlement.
Then his eyes dropped to the purchase contract sitting on the coffee table. Down payment, 800,000. The in-laws had scraped together 300,000. The remaining 500,000 sat there like a gaping wound, waiting for him to fill it. That money was everything. 7 years of scrimping and saving. Every yuan earmarked for a school district house, for their daughter's elementary education. Slowly, he lifted his head. His hand moved toward the briefcase beside him. The sound of the zipper cut through the dead quiet of the room. His father-in-law's lips twitched upward. There it was. The smug satisfaction of a man who knew he'd won. Zhang Yufin's pinched face relaxed. Su Xiaohui finally dared to meet his eyes. Guilt flickered there, yes. But relief drowned it out. They were all waiting. Waiting for him to pull out the bank card. Waiting for him to recite the PIN. Waiting to complete this blood transfusion ritual they'd perfected over so many years. Guo Lei's hand stopped inside the bag. It wasn't a bank card his fingers found. It was a thick document envelope. He raised his eyes. His gaze moved from his father-in-law to his mother-in-law and finally settled on his wife's face. His voice came out flat.
No ripples. No anger.
I'm not giving you a single cent. Today we're going to settle the accounts. Let's see exactly how much the Su family has borrowed from me over the years. 7 days earlier. Friday night. Guo Lei dragged himself through the door at 9:30, bone-tired from overtime. No small body hurtling toward him.
No laughter.
No hot food waiting. The living room glowed dim under a single wall lamp. Su Xiaohui sprawled on the sofa, iPad propped on her lap, eyes glued to some drama. She didn't look up. Where's Yaya? He kicked off his shoes. Asleep. Her answer came out flat, dismissive. Her gaze never left the screen. Mom picked her up this afternoon. Said she missed her granddaughter. She'll stay there for the weekend. Guo Lei paused mid-motion. Again. 3rd time this month. His mother-in-law had never shown much interest in the kid before, but lately she'd been taking her constantly. Every time Yaya left, the house went quiet for days. Peaceful, sure, but cold.
Hollow.
He said nothing. Walked into the kitchen. The refrigerator held a few yogurts and a half-eaten ear of corn his daughter had left behind. The stove was cold. The sink was piled with dirty dishes. No dinner? He stepped back out, keeping his voice even.
Oh.
Forgot. Su Xiaohui finally lifted her head, irritation flickering across her face.
Just order takeout or something.
I'm on a diet. Skipping dinner. Guo Lei didn't respond. He pulled out his phone and ordered the cheapest fried rice on the menu. While he waited, he wandered into his daughter's small bedroom. Everything was tidy. Her favorite rabbit plushie was missing from the bed. She never went to Grandma's without it. He sat down at her little desk. His fingers traced the surface absently. A drawing was taped to the corner. Stick figures holding hands. Dad, Mom, Yaya. A smiling sun overhead. The paper had gone soft at the edges, curled from age. Something inside his chest gave a small, sharp ache. There had been a time when he and Su Xiaohui held hands like that. 3 years of dating. 7 years of marriage. He was a software engineer. She taught elementary school. Their income wasn't spectacular, but in a second-tier city, it was stable. They hadn't bought a house when they got married. Rented for years, saving every scrap. His parents had gritted their teeth and pitched in 200,000. 4 years ago, they finally scraped together the down payment for this 2-bedroom. The mortgage sat heavy on his shoulders every single month. Over 6,000. He couldn't afford to slip. Su Xiaowei was the eldest. Her younger brother, Su Hao, was 5 years behind her, spoiled rotten by their parents. He'd bombed the college entrance exams, got a factory job through family connections, quit after 6 months because it was too tiring. Tried opening a bubble tea shop.
Failed.
Partnered with a friend for some renovation gig. That tanked too. Every failure, Guolei and Su Xiaowei had plugged the hole. They called it borrowing, but there was never an IOU. And the money never came back. Guolei had pushed back. The first few times, Su Xiaowei would sweet-talk him. He's my only brother. Mom and Dad are getting old. If we don't help, who will? Once he gets stable, he'll pay us back, I promise. Then the pushback turned into protests. And the protests turned into tears. He's my flesh and blood. Guolei, do you even see me as family? Your money is my money. What's wrong with helping my brother? Eventually, the tears stopped too, replaced by Cold War. If Guolei brought up Su Hao's borrowing, the house turned to ice for days. For his daughter's sake, for the surface peace of this household, Guolei swallowed his objections. Again and again. But silence didn't buy restraint. It bought escalation. It started with 3,000 or 5,000 here and there. Emergency cash. Then it grew to 10,000 or 20,000. Startup capital. Then last year, Su Hao announced he needed a car to drive for a rideshare company. 80,000. In one bite. Most of Guolei's year-end bonus. That time, Guolei exploded. He threw a cup. First time in their marriage. Su Xiaowei came back harder. Guolei, seriously? 80,000. He'll make money with the car and pay us back. How can you be this petty? Do you think I owe you something just because I married you? Zhang Yufan's phone call came right on cue. Not to mediate, to attack. Xiao Guo, I have to say this. A man needs to be generous. How is your brother-in-law? What's wrong with helping him out? Xiaowei married you without asking for a big bride price, without demanding a house. And this is how you act when we ask for a little support? We misjudged you. Su Jiangwo took a more creative approach. He posted a link in the family group chat. Shocking. Brother-in-law refuses to help wife's brother, and the reason will, some toxic clickbait about how men without a sense of responsibility let the whole family line decay. That Cold War lasted half a month. It only ended when Yeye cried and begged them to stop fighting.
Guolei caved.
The 80,000 vanished into silence. Su Hao drove the car for less than 3 months. Too tiring. He quit. The car got handed off to his father. And nobody ever mentioned the 80,000 again. After that, the string inside Guolei labeled family had stretched to its absolute limit. And frozen solid. The delivery arrived. Guolei ate his greasy fried rice in silence. Su Xiaowei finished her drama, did her nighttime routine, and walked straight to the bedroom. The door clicked shut. The lock turned. A sequence of sounds he knew by heart now.
Practiced.
Indifferent. Guolei sat on the couch for a long time. Then he stood up, walked into the study, and powered on the old computer. There was an encrypted folder on that machine, labeled Household. Inside, spreadsheets dense as ledgers. Images. Screenshots. He'd been keeping records since the beginning of their marriage. 7 years. Not a budget. A log of every financial interaction involving Su Hao and the in-laws. At first it was just a note in his phone. A memo. Then the entries multiplied. The pattern grew too ugly to ignore. He transferred everything to a spreadsheet. Every transfer. WeChat. Alipay. Bank card. Screenshots saved. Every time Su Xiaowei handed cash to her parents, he'd ask for the amount. She always got vague and noted down manually. He even saved key chat logs. Su Xiaowei's WeChat message from last year when Su Hao wanted that 80,000. Honey, last time I swear.
Hao's really changed this time.
He'll work hard with the car, I know it. Followed by a cute pleading sticker. Zhang Yufin's voice message from another time. Lei, you make good money. Help Hao out a little more. When he does well, doesn't that reflect well on you and your wife? You think he won't remember your kindness later? Guo Lei hadn't replied, but something had made him record it. He opened the spreadsheet and scrolled to the bottom. The most recent entry was 3 months old. Su Xiaowei withdrew 20,000 in cash. Reason: Mom said Dad's back hurts, needs physical therapy. Guo Lei later found out the therapy cost 3,000. The rest went straight to Su Hao. Zhang Yufin's explanation: young people have tight budgets. He scrolled up. 1 year ago, 80,000. Su Hao's car. A year and a half ago, 35,000. Su Hao's partnership deposit.
2 years ago,
12,000. Zhang Yufin's heart condition. Guo Lei saw the medical records later. Just mild palpitations. 2.5 years. 5,000. Su Hao's new phone. 3 years. 4 years. 5 years. The entries stretched back, line after line. Numbers.
dates,
Excuses. He ran the sum. He didn't bother with the small stuff. The hundreds here and there. The gifts to the in-laws. Just the direct loans to Su Hao and the large withdrawals under the parents' names. The total made his vision swim. Over 420,000. That money came from his overtime bonuses, ground out past midnight. From the new phones he never bought himself. From the 200,000 his parents had squeezed from their own retirement to help him start his family. And it had all vanished into a bottomless pit. Not even an echo. What made his blood run colder was the realization that nearly every single time, Su Xiaowei had stood on her family's side, plotting how to extract more from him. Their joint savings, earmarked for a school district house for their daughter's future, had been bled thinner with every transaction. Guo Lei leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. The computer screen cast flickering shadows across his face. This had to stop.
for Yaya,
And for himself. For 7 years of being a fool. He grabbed his phone and scrolled to a name he hadn't contacted in a long time.
Zhao Mingyuan, college classmate,
Now a partner at a law firm, specialized in divorce and property disputes. Before he dialed, he glanced at the closed bedroom door. Then he pressed the call button. Mingyuan, it's Guo Lei. I need to ask you something about divorce and property division.
His voice was low.
But in the silence of the study, every word landed clear and sharp, cold as a man burning his last bridge. Saturday morning. A quiet coffee shop. Zhao Mingyuan listened without interrupting. He studied the screenshots of transfer records Guo Lei had brought, paged through the spreadsheet. His frown deepened with every line. When he finally set the phone down, he looked at Guo Lei for a long moment. Old Guo, he exhaled. You weren't running a marriage. You were running a charity foundation. Single beneficiary. Your brother-in-law. Guo Lei let out a dry laugh and stirred his cold coffee. I used to think it was all family. That keeping score would only hurt feelings. Now I realize the only thing that got hurt was my bank account. And my daughter's future. Feelings. Zhao Mingyuan snorted. They ever show you any? All I see is emotional blackmail wrapped in blood ties. Your wife's attitude is the key. From what you've described and what these records show, she turned herself into an ATM transfer station for her birth family. Your own household never came first. Legally, that's bad for her. Logically, you're standing on solid ground. What does the law say? Income during marriage is generally joint property. If your wife gives small amounts to her family for legitimate reasons, support, medical care, it's hard to claim asset shifting. But this? He tapped the spreadsheet. Long-term. Large sums. Frequent. Clearly beyond any reasonable scope. The recipient has no ability or intention to repay. You can argue malicious depletion of joint assets. In a divorce, you can demand she receives a reduced share or compensate you. Zhao Mingyuan's delivery was quick and clinical. These records, the screenshots, especially the ones with specific details and acknowledgments of debt in chat logs, the recordings, these are all solid evidence. They prove the flow and nature of the money. They prove it wasn't used for your joint life. What about the house? I paid the down payment before marriage, with my parents' help. But we've been paying the mortgage together. The house is a big one. Your pre-marriage down payment and your parents' $200,000. If you can prove those were a gift or loan to you personally before marriage, they remain your separate property. The mortgage payments made during marriage and the appreciation tied to those payments are joint property. Your wife can claim she contributed. Even if her salary went to daily expenses and yours went to the mortgage, legally, that's still joint contribution. He paused. However, if you can prove she consistently diverted large amounts of joint property to her family, seriously damaging your household's finances and development plans, like the school district house, you can demand she gets a smaller share of the division. Possibly even use her share to offset the losses. What do I need to do? First, keep building evidence. Dig out every transfer record you can. Bank statements will back you up. Organize the chat logs and recordings. Your spreadsheet is important, but it needs the raw records to support it. Second, get a clear picture of your current assets. All accounts. Third, and most important, figure out what you actually want. A clean divorce? Or use this as leverage to force a total break from her family? Guolei stared out the window for a long moment. The sunlight felt harsh. The school district house. Yaya starts elementary next year. The one we had our eye on, down payment was around $1 million. Our savings plus the housing fund could have covered it. Barely. Now he shook his head. They've drained so much, and prices kept climbing. We're way short. Yaya might end up in some mediocre school, miles from home. He lifted his head. Exhaustion sharpened into something harder. I don't want a divorce. Not as punishment. I just want to protect what my daughter deserves. Get this family back on track. But if Xiaowei keeps putting her birth family above ours, then this marriage isn't worth saving. Zhao Mingyuan nodded.
Got it.
For now, don't tip your hand. Keep gathering evidence. Especially if they make another big move soon. You mentioned the brother-in-law's getting married? Buying a house. I've heard bits and pieces. House got a girlfriend. She's demanding he owns a home. That's probably what this is. There's your opportunity. Zhao Mingyuan leaned forward. If they come asking for a huge sum, demanding you empty your savings, sell the house, borrow money, that's the ultimate incident. You can choose that moment to lay everything out. It's going to be ugly. But sometimes you have to lance the abscess before it heals. Lay it out how? Not a fight, a negotiation. Show your evidence.
State your bottom line.
Tell them the past can be settled, can be discussed. But from this moment forward, not a single cent more. Your household finances stay independent and transparent. She can't touch large amounts of joint money for her family without your consent. If she agrees and signs a post-nuptial agreement spelling out the new rules, then maybe you can move forward. If she refuses or agrees and then goes behind your back, Zhao Mingyuan met his eyes. Then you prepare for the worst. And you use every legal tool to take back what belongs to you and your daughter. Every cent. Guolei's knuckles went white around his coffee cup. All right. I know what I have to do. As they stood to leave, Zhao Mingyuan added one more thing. Protect your original evidence. Back it up to the cloud. And watch your wife's recent activity. Any large transfers. Your in-laws are going to keep pressing. When Guolei got home, Su Xiaowei was up. She stood at the dining table arranging flowers, humming to herself. She looked relaxed, almost happy. She saw him and actually spoke first. You're back. What do you want for lunch? Mom called. She wants us to come over for dinner tonight. Hal's bringing his girlfriend. Family get-together. Family? Guolei didn't stop taking off his shoes. His tone stayed flat. Your parents. Your brother. Your brother's girlfriend.
You.
Sounds like a Sue family reunion. Sue Xiaoyi's hand stopped. The flower stem hovered midair. Her smile stiffened. Guolei, what's that supposed to mean? Don't be nasty. Hao's bringing his girlfriend to meet everyone officially. As his sister and brother-in-law, shouldn't we be there? We should. Guolei stepped closer, meeting her eyes. I'm just wondering what the price tag is this time. Her face changed. What are you trying to say? Hao's getting married. It's a big deal. Mom and Dad are happy. It's just dinner. Can you stop making everything about money? It's so tacky. Tacky. Guolei smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Shall we? We've been married 7 years. Yeye's about to start elementary school. That school district house we promised we'd buy, have you checked the prices lately? Do you even know how much is left in our accounts? Sue Xiaoyi's gaze flickered. The house, we can take our time. Hao only gets married once. Mom and Dad only have him.
Right.
Only him. Guolei cut her off. His voice stayed even, but it landed like shards of ice. So every resource the Sue family has should pour into him. Including you. Including my money. Including our daughter's future.
Correct.
Guolei. You bastard. Sue Xiaoyi hurled the flower stem onto the floor. Her eyes went red. Why do you have to talk like that? I married you. I gave you a child. What's wrong with using a little money to help my family? Your money is my money. How can you be so selfish? The same script. Every time. Guolei felt an overwhelming wave of exhaustion. Not even the energy to argue. He turned away and walked toward the study. I'll go tonight. As for the money, we'll talk about it at dinner. Sue Xiaoyi's voice chased him, cracking with tears.
Guolei.
What do you mean? What are you going to do? Guolei closed the study door, and with it, the last flicker of hesitation in his heart. He opened his computer and imported every new chat log and transfer screenshot from recent months into the encrypted folder. Then, he tested the voice recorder on his phone, confirmed it was working, and slipped it into his shirt pocket. Tonight's family dinner would not be peaceful. He needed to capture every word, especially the moment they finally showed their hand. The family dinner was at the in-laws' place. By the time Guolei arrived, the living room was already loud. Su Hao sprawled in the center of the sofa, his arm draped around a young woman in heavy makeup and trendy clothes. Su Zhengwo hovered nearby, all smiles, offering fruit. Zhang Yufin commanded the kitchen, her voice booming as she ordered Su Xiaoyi around. Brother-in-law's here. Su Hao lifted his chin in a half-nod when he saw Guolei. His attention snapped back to his girlfriend instantly, whispering something that made her giggle. Su Zhengwo nodded at Guolei.
Lay. Sit.
Work keeping you busy. Manageable. Guolei took the single armchair off to the side. His eyes swept the coffee table. Real estate brochures were spread across the surface. The top one had a red circle around a new development's location. Xiaoya, this is my brother-in-law. Guolei. Works in IT. Senior engineer. Su Hao introduced him with a note of pride, as if his brother-in-law's status somehow rubbed off on him. The girl called Xiaoya flashed Guolei a thin smile and went back to her phone. Guolei returned a faint smile, said nothing. Zhang Yufin's voice rang from the kitchen. Shall we? Get those prawns cleaned. Hao's girlfriend's from the coast. She loves seafood. Lei, go downstairs and grab a decent bottle of red wine. What we've got isn't good enough for tonight. Su Xiaoyi answered from the kitchen. Guolei didn't move. Mom, I drove.
Can't drink.
Let Hao and Dad have some. Zhang Yufin's head popped out of the kitchen. Her face wore a smile, but her eyes held steel. Oh, just buy it anyway. We've got important guests. What kind of dinner is this without a good bottle on the table? Hurry up. Su Xiaoyi emerged, wiping her hands, and shot Guolei a look. Honey, just go. If Mom says buy it, just buy it. Guolei looked at her, then at his mother-in-law's eager, no, commanding expression. then at his father-in-law and brother-in-law on the sofa, radiating pure entitlement. He stood up slowly. Fine. As he turned and headed out the door, he touched the phone in his pocket. The recorder was still running. At the corner store, the cheapest red wine was over 200. Guolei paid. Walked back upstairs. The table was loaded. Chicken, duck, fish, seafood. More elaborate than Chinese New Year. Throughout the meal, the in-laws showered Xiaoya with attention. Food piled onto her plate. Drinks poured. Questions about her family, her background. Su Hao swaggered through the whole thing, spinning grand tales about his future business plans. They sounded just as unrealistic as all his previous ones.
Guolei in silence.
Answered when spoken to. Su Xiaoyi sat beside him, fidgeting, glancing at him every few minutes. After a few rounds of drinks, the real topic surfaced. Su Zhengwo took a sip of his wine and sighed. Hao's grown up now. Time to start his own family. As parents, we're happy. But we're also worried. Zhang Yufan jumped in right on cue. What's there to worry about? The house. How, Xiaoya, that development you were looking at, good layout, nice location. The down payment's just a bit steep, that's all. Su Hao tightened his arm around Xiaoya's shoulder. Dad, Mom, the down payment's only 800,000. You said you'd cover 300,000. The rest, my sister and brother-in-law aren't going to just watch me struggle, right? Xiaoya put on a shy, hopeful expression. Annie, Uncle, Hao and I really want to be together. It's just, without a house, I can't feel settled. And my parents insist on it. The spotlight swung. Zhang Yufan beamed at Guolei and Su Xiaoyi. Shall we, Lei, look? Hao's life-defining moment. All it needs is this final push. If you two don't help, who will? Su Zhengwo added weight. Lei, I know you two aren't rolling in cash. But family helps family when it counts. Your place is a bit small, sure, but you've got a roof over your heads. Hao's got nothing yet. Prioritize him first. Once he's stable, you think he'll forget what you've done? Su Xiaoyi poked at her rice, head down, voice barely there. Dad, Mom, we've been looking at school district houses too. Yeye's starting school. Oh, Yeye's still young. Zhang Yufan cut her off. What's the rush? Plenty of good schools. You can switch houses next year. Hao's wedding is major. It can't wait. Shall we? Don't you dare side with outsiders. Hao is your own blood brother. Su Xiaoyi said nothing. Her head sank lower. Guolei set down his chopsticks. He picked up his napkin and wiped his mouth.
Slowly.
Every pair of eyes locked onto him.
Dad, Mom.
Guolei's voice was calm. Hao buying a house is good news. Down payment 800,000. You're putting in 300,000. That leaves 500,000. How do you plan to cover the gap? Su Hao jumped in first. Brother-in-law, don't you and my sister have savings? Just let me use it for now. I'll pay you back double once I'm earning. Zhang Yufan laughed. Exactly. Lei, that money's just sitting there anyway. Let Hao get married first. We're all family, why talk about borrowing and paying back? So formal. Su Zhengwo nodded. Lei, don't worry. We'll consider this a loan from us, the parents, and Hao. We can even write an IOU. An IOU? Guolei's mind let out a cold laugh. They'd said that at least 5 times. Never once happened. 500,000 isn't a small amount.
He looked at them.
Our savings are earmarked for Yeye's school district house. They can't be moved. The air around the table froze solid. Su Hao's grin vanished. Xiaoya frowned. Zhang Yufan's voice pitched upward. Lei, what do you mean? Yeye's school district house is more important than Hao getting married? Once Hao's married and has kids, that's your nephew. As aunt and uncle, shouldn't you contribute something? Su Zhengwo's face darkened. Guolei, a real man doesn't nickel and dime his family. Money is dead.
People are alive.
Does money matter more than family? Su Xiaoyi's head snapped up. She stared at Guolei with a mix of pleading and accusation. Honey, can't you just what? Guole turned to her, eyes sharp. Just take our daughter's school money and hand it to your brother? Shall we? Yaya is your daughter too. Guole. Su Xiaohui's face flushed red. Do you have to do this in front of everyone? How is my brother? How can I not help him? Can't you understand how hard this is for me? Hard for you. Guole's voice stayed steady, but something compressed beneath it. What's hard for you is being caught in the middle, always choosing to sacrifice our family to prop up yours. What about what's hard for me? What's hard for Yaya? Who understands that? You Su Xiaohui couldn't speak. Tears brimmed in her eyes. Zhang Yufin slammed her palm on the table. That's enough. Guole, how dare you speak to your wife like that? We gave our daughter to you, so you could bully her? Helping your brother-in-law is only natural. Your attitude tonight. Are you saying you don't respect us? Su Hao stood up, jabbing a finger at Guole. Brother-in-law, you think you're so great with your money, huh? My sister wasted her life marrying you. Won't even help her own brother. You're inhuman. Xiaoya muttered under her breath. How, forget it. If they don't want to help, we don't need their charity. That poured gasoline on the fire. Su Zhengwo's hands shook with rage. Guole, I want a straight answer. Are you giving the money or not? For pairs of furious eyes burned into him. His wife's tearful, wronged glare. Guole stood up. He didn't shout. His face barely registered emotion. His gaze moved calmly from person to person. It came to rest on Su Xiaohui. I have the money, but how it's used and who it goes to, that's my decision. This dinner is clearly over. He pulled his chair back.
Shall we?
Let's go. Home. Su Xiaohui didn't move. She just cried. Zhang Yufin screeched, Go home? Nobody leaves until this is settled. Guole, if you don't agree, you're not stepping out that door. Su Hao planted himself in front of the doorway, jaw set, looking ready for a fight. Guole surveyed the scene. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. A cold smile. He sat back down and adjusted his cuffs.
Fine.
You want to talk? Let's talk. But before we discuss this 500,000, he raised his eyes. They cut like a blade. Let's first settle the accounts. How much the Su family has borrowed from me over the last 7 years. Line by line. Su Zhengwo froze. Zhang Yufin's mouth hung open. Su Hao looked completely lost. Su Xiaohui stopped crying, staring at him in shock. Guole unhurriedly pulled out his phone. He lit up the screen but didn't open anything yet.
He just looked at them.
What's wrong? Afraid to do the math. Silence swallowed the living room. Only Su Xiaohui's stifled sobs broke through, jarring in the stillness. Zhang Yufin recovered first. She went off like a cat whose tail had been stomped on, voice splitting the air. Math. What math? Guole, do you have any conscience? Our Xiaohui married you, gave you a child, ran your household. You think spending a little of your money isn't justified? It's her right. And now you want to dig up old accounts? Are you even a man? Su Zhengwo's face had gone iron gray. Guole, the past is the past. Why drag it up? Family helps each other. That's not borrowing. You're breaking our hearts here. Su Hao went straight to cursing. Brother-in-law, are you insane? You've got the nerve to bring up that pocket change? My sister gave you her best years. A compensation for lost youth would be more than that. Compensation for lost youth? Guole repeated the phrase, as if savoring some dark joke. He turned to Su Xiaohui. Is that what you think too, Xiaohui? Your youth was a loss. What about my 7 years? Su Xiaohui averted her eyes. She kept crying, said nothing. But her silence was its own answer. Guole nodded. The last ember of warmth inside him winked out. Good. Since you all think Guole's money is fair game, and using it is doing me a favor, then let me do the math on that favor. He stopped hesitating. He opened the encrypted folder on his phone. He didn't display the raw files. Instead, he pulled up a summary screenshot and turned the screen toward them. Year 2 of our marriage. Su Hao's first loan. 5,000. Reason. He needed capital to run a street stall with a friend. Chat log exists. Su Hao personally said, "Brother-in-law, lend me 5,000. I'll pay you back as soon as I make money." End of that same year. Dad said he had heart trouble and needed hospital tests. Shall we withdrew 20,000 from my account. Later I saw the records and receipts. Actual cost was under 8,000. The remaining 12,000, Mom, you told me you used for house driving school and new clothes. Correct. Zhang Yufin's face twisted. Her lips trembled. You're talking nonsense. That money all went to your father's medical bills. Really? Guolei's finger moved on the screen. That's fine. The bank withdrawal record has a timestamp. The hospital receipts have dates and amounts. Should I call the bank and hospital right now and pull the records from that year? Zhang Yufin's mouth clamped shut. Her face cycled red and white. Su Jiangwo erupted in a coughing fit. Genuine or cover? Impossible to tell. Guolei pressed on. His tone stayed level, as if he were reading a work report. Year 3. Su Hao wanted to open a bubble tea shop. Borrowed 35,000. The shop lasted 3 months. Folded. Money never came back. Su Hao posted in the family chat. Business didn't work out. Lost it. Sorry, sister and brother-in-law. Nothing about repayment. Chat log still exists. Year 4. Mom said the family house needed repairs. Needed 30,000. Transferred. 6 months later I passed through on a work trip. The house looked the same. I asked. Mom said the money went toward house car down payment instead. He needed it for work. That car cost 80,000 total. Hao put in 20. 30 of the remaining 60 came from that repair money. The other 30 came from Xiaowei draining our family vacation fund. Su Xiaowi's head jerked up, disbelief flooding her face. How do you know about the vacation fund? Because I deposited that money into a separate account. You had the card. But I had SMS alerts. Guolei looked at her. When you withdrew the cash, I got the notification. I asked. You told me you wanted to buy Mom and Dad massage chairs. I never saw massage chairs in their house. Where the money went, you know perfectly well. Su Xiaowi's face drained of color. Year 5. Su Hao needed to grease palms for a new job. 20,000. Year 6. Dad had a minor surgery. After insurance, out-of-pocket was about 10,000. Xiaowei took 30,000 to the hospital. The extra 20,000 later turned into a receipt for Hao's new phone and a receipt for a gold necklace for his girlfriend at the time. They were tucked inside Dad's discharge papers. I saw them. Year 7. Last year. Su Hao wanted a car to drive for a rideshare company. Borrowed 80,000. Car purchased. Driven less than 3 months. Too tiring. Quit. Dad drives the car now. 80,000. No one has ever breathed the word repay. Guolei recited them one by one. Steady. Unhurried. Dates. Amounts. Reasons. Pointers to evidence. With each entry, the in-laws and Su Hao looked sicker. Su Xiaowei had stopped crying. She just sat there, all blood gone from her face, trembling slightly. It had probably never occurred to her that Guolei remembered this clearly. Certainly not that he would strip every piece of dirty laundry in front of everyone. There's more. Smaller amounts. 300 here. 500 there. 2,000 elsewhere. Gifts for Mom and Dad. Pocket money for Hao. I won't list them all. Guolei lowered his phone and faced the 4 squirming people. Rough calculation. What went directly to Su Hao or was used in his name exceeds 350,000. Adding the large sums taken under Mom and Dad's name where the actual use is questionable, the total exceeds 420,000. 420,000. He let the number hang in the silent room. And this doesn't count the fact that at our wedding, the Su family demanded no bride price, but provided almost no dowry. Most of the wedding costs were covered by my family. Those are separate hidden contributions. He leaned forward slightly. His gaze swept his in-laws and came to rest on Su Hao's ghost-pale face. Su Hao, you're 26. 420,000, even in a basic savings account, would have earned tens of thousands in interest over 7 years. I'll skip the interest. Principal only. When do you plan to pay it back? Su Hao squirmed under that stare. But with his parents and sister present, he still had the nerve to bare his teeth. Pay back what? My sister gave me that money. It's none of your damn business. She wanted to give it. What's it to you? What your sister gave you came from our joint marital property. Guo Lei's tone iced over. She has no right to dispose of large amounts without my consent, especially when it clearly damages our household's interests and the recipient has no intention of repaying. Legally, I can claw it back. Legal? Zhang Yufan shrieked. Guo Lei, you'd sue us? Are you even human? We're your in-laws. How is your brother-in-law? Family and you talk about law? Do you have any sense of kinship left? Kinship? Guo Lei laughed. The sound was saturated with irony. When you kept reaching into my pockets, taking my daughter's school money to feed your son's bottomless appetite, did you talk about kinship then? When you ganged up to force me to empty my savings, ready to destroy my household to fulfill your son's wishes, did kinship cross your minds? His voice rose. 7 years of suppressed fury and disappointment broke through. Your version of kinship is bleeding your daughter and son-in-law dry to fatten a son who never grows up and never stops taking. Your kinship is emotional blackmail and wealth extraction wrapped in the flag of family. That kind of kinship, Guo Lei, don't want it. The words landed like sledgehammers. Su Jiangwo shook so hard he could barely speak. He pointed at Guo Lei. You, get out. Get out of here. The Su family has no son-in-law like you. Su Hao shot to his feet.
Yeah, get out.
Sister, divorce him. Why stay with this bastard? Zhang Yufan lunged at Su Xiaowei, shaking her shoulders. Xiaowei, you hear this? This is how he sees your family. He's a white-eyed wolf. Heartless. Divorce. Divorce him now. Leave him with nothing. Su Xiaowei was rattled dizzy. She looked at her raging parents and brother, then at the ice-cold resolution across from her. A vast, disorienting terror swallowed her. She had always known her family took too much, but she'd never seen the bill laid out so nakedly. Never seen Guo Lei this hard, this merciless. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. Guo Lei watched the circus. His heart stayed cold. He knew the decisive moment had arrived. He picked up his phone again. This time he opened a document preview. Divorce? Fine. His voice went calm again, almost weary. But before we talk about divorce, some things need to be settled. Property division. Debt liability. Yeya's custody. He turned the screen towards Su Xiaowei. It showed the first page of a document Zhao Mingyuan had helped him draft. A post-nuptial property and debt clarification agreement. Key clauses were marked in red. Xiaowei, you have choices. Option 1. Sign this agreement. It formally acknowledges the 420,000 as Su Hao's personal debt to you, separated from our joint property. It clarifies the ownership and future management of our current savings and property, especially guaranteeing Yeye's education fund. From this point forward, without my written consent, you may not gift or lend any amount exceeding a set threshold, say 5,000, of joint property to anyone in your birth family. Future support for your parents will be negotiated jointly based on law and our financial ability. It will not include unlimited subsidies for Su Hao. If you sign and actually follow it, the past can stay buried. For Yeya's sake, maybe we can still have a life. Su Xiaowei stared at the screen. The cold clauses stabbed at her eyes. Option 2. Guo Lei's voice dropped a few more degrees. If you refuse, or if the Su family thinks I'm bluffing and tries to sweep this under the rug like before, or escalates. He paused. His eyes raked across his in-laws and Su Hao. Every word deliberate. Then I will formally file for divorce. At the same time, I will sue on grounds of malicious depletion and squandering of joint marital property. I'll request the court to reduce or eliminate your share in the property division and recover my personal losses. This $420,000, I have transfer records, chat logs, recordings, witnesses. My parents can testify to the source of some of the funds. Some items are old. Some will be harder to prove. But together, they form a solid chain of evidence proving long-term, systematic misappropriation of joint assets. A lawsuit costs time and energy. I'm not afraid. When it happens, not only will you not get a cent of that $500,000, you'll have to cough up a chunk of what you already swallowed. And Gourlay's eyes locked onto Sue Howe, whose face had begun to crumble. Sue Howe, that car in your name? Purchased with joint marital funds. I can apply for property preservation. I can even demand it be auctioned to offset the debt. If your girlfriend finds out you don't just lack a house, but your car might not even be yours and you're buried in debt, you think she'll still marry you? Sue Howe looked like he'd been electrocuted. His head whipped toward Xiaoya. She had already set down her chopsticks, face sour, body subtly inching away. As for Mom and Dad, Guo Lei faced his ashen in-laws. As recipients of multiple large gifts, with full knowledge of where the money came from, under certain circumstances, you could also be named as co-defendants, jointly liable for repayment. It depends on the specifics and the judge. But a lawsuit will drag your reputation through the mud in front of every relative and neighbor. Kill the body. Kill the heart. Guo Lei didn't yell, didn't curse. He simply laid out the most brutal possibilities in the calmest voice. Every sentence hit exactly what the Sue family treasured and feared most. Sue Howe's marriage prospects. The parents' precious face. Sue Xiaoyi's marriage and assets. And the one thing they'd never truly valued, but which had become Gourlay's strongest weapon, Ye's future. Zhang Yufan gasped like a fish out of water. Su Zhengwo clutched his chest. Sweat beaded on his forehead. Sue Howe was in full panic, looking from his parents to his sister to his girlfriend, whose distance was now unmistakable. Sue Xiaoyi finally broke. She buried her face in her hands and sobbed. Stop. Guolei, please stop. How did it come to this? Guolei pocketed his phone and stood up. He didn't look at his weeping wife. Didn't look at the shattered in-laws or brother-in-law. I'll send the electronic version of the agreement to your WeChat. You have 3 days. 3 days. Then give me your answer. One more thing. He stopped at the door. Didn't turn around. I'm picking up Ye tomorrow. From now on, no one takes her away without my permission. My daughter doesn't need to experience kinship in a household that does nothing but scheme against her father's wallet. He pulled the door open and walked out. Behind him, Su Xiaoyi's heartbroken wails mixed with Zhang Yufan's enraged curses. But those sounds felt like they came through a thick pane of glass. They couldn't touch him anymore. Deep night. Guolei sat in his car. He didn't start the engine right away. He pulled out his phone and stopped the recording app that had been running for nearly 2 hours.
Saved.
Backed up. Then he messaged Zhao Mingyuan. Step 1 done. It was even uglier than expected. Zhao Mingyuan replied quickly. Expected. Stay steady. Wait for their reaction. Evidence, secure. Also, warning, they might get desperate. Show up at your workplace. Use emotional blackmail with the kid. Guolei typed back. Understood. I'm ready. He set the phone down and leaned back against the headrest. He let out a long, slow breath. 7 years. For the first time, he had said everything pressing on his heart. For the first time, no more patience. No more compromise. It didn't feel like relief. It felt like a heavy, almost painful clarity. He knew the real war might only be starting. But he was ready. For his daughter. And for the version of himself who had once believed in family, only to be hollowed out piece by piece. He started the engine and pulled into the vast night. The headlights cut through the darkness, pointing toward an uncertain road ahead. But at least now his hands were on the wheel. The next 2 days passed with an eerie calm. The family group chat was a graveyard. Sue Shalwi didn't come home. No calls. No texts. The in-laws were silent. Gwale went to work, came home, picked up Yaya from kindergarten. When she asked about her mom, he just said she was at grandma's and would be back in a couple of days. The kids seemed to sense something was off, but she didn't push. On the afternoon of the third day, Sue Shalwi's WeChat message arrived.
Short.
Coming home tonight to talk. Mom, Dad, and how are coming too? Here it was. Gwale replied.
Fine.
7 o'clock. He left work early, picked up Yaya from kindergarten, and brought her to his parents' place. They already knew the broad strokes. Anger and heartache mixed on their faces as they held their granddaughter's hand. His father said, Lay, don't go soft this time. For Yaya's sake, you have to stand firm. Gwale nodded. Dad, Mom, I know. Take care of her. No matter what you hear tonight, don't come over. With his daughter safe, Gwale returned home. It was 6:30. He checked the discreet security cameras he'd installed around the house. Zhao Mingyuan's suggestion. Precaution for extreme scenarios, property damage, physical altercation. Mostly, though, to record the negotiation as supplementary evidence. The living room was spotless. Almost too tidy. Sterile. At 7 on the dot, the doorbell rang. Gwale opened the door. 4 people stood outside. Su Jiangwo, Zhang Yufan, Su Hao, and Su Shalwi, eyes swollen, face drawn. Su Jiangwo was holding 2 bottles of liquor. Zhang Yufan clutched a bag of fruit. Su Hao's hands were empty. His face was sullen. Su Shalwi kept her head down, not meeting Gwale's eyes. Come in. Gwale stepped aside. They filed in. The air was thick enough to ring out. Zhang Yufan set the fruit on the coffee table and forced out a smile uglier than a grimace. Lei, you haven't eaten yet, right? Mom brought you some oranges. Your favorite. Don't bother, Mom. Let's get to it. Gwale cut her off. He sat in the single armchair and gestured for them to sit. Su Jiangwo placed the liquor aside and cleared his throat. He tried to muster some patriarchal authority, but his eyes wandered. Lei, that night things got heated. We're family. No overnight grudges. We came to clear the air. Solve this properly. Su Hao flopped onto the long sofa, crossed his legs, and grunted. No words. Su Shalwi sat at the far end, keeping distance from both her parents and her brother. Gwale looked at them. Solve it? Did you read the agreement? Zhang Yufan jumped in. We read it. Lei, that agreement, it's completely unreasonable. How is your own brother-in-law an IOU? And forbidding Shalwi from giving her own family money? If word of this gets out, our family loses all face. Face. Gwale stared at her. Mom, when you kept reaching into my pocket, did you think about face? When you tried to force me to hand over my daughter's school money, did you think about Yaya's face? Su Jiangwo's expression darkened. Gwale, the past is the past. Is there any point in clinging to it? We're here to solve this in good faith. Hao needs a house. It's a hard necessity. Can't you help just this last time? I'm begging you. Last time? Gwale smiled. I've heard that at least 10 times. Dad, your last time has 0 credibility left. Su Hao couldn't hold it in. He sat bolt upright. Gwale, don't push your luck. My sister didn't marry you to get bullied. You'll hand over the money whether you like it or not. Or else what? Gwale fixed him with a cold stare. Come to my office and cause a scene? Try something with Yaya? Su Hao, I'm warning you. Any extreme behavior becomes evidence in court. And it'll make things worse for you. You think scaring me works? Su Hao stood up, jabbing a finger. You think I'm afraid of a lawsuit? That money was given by my sister willingly. You can sue all you want. Pay you back? Dream on. Su Hao. Sit down. Su Jiangwo barked at his son, but the reprimand lacked any real bite. He turned back to Gwale, voice softening into a pleading whine. Lei, please. I'm begging you. Hao's marriage can't wait any longer. Xiaoya gave an ultimatum. No, House, it's over. Hao's not young anymore. If this falls through, what's left for him? Just have some pity. We swear this is the last time. Once Hao's married, he'll work hard and pay everything back. Zhang Yufin started wiping tears. Lei, Mom knows we made mistakes before. But Hao is my flesh and blood. I can't watch him stay single forever. Just help him. I'll get on my knees if I have to.
She made to stand.
Su Xiaoyi couldn't take it. She cried out, Mom, don't. She turned to Guolei, eyes streaming. Honey, can't you help Hao just once more? I'm begging you. I'll listen to everything you say from now on. You control the money. I won't send any more to my family. Just get Hao past this hurdle. He's my own brother. There it was again.
Tears. Pleading.
Emotional blackmail. Before, Guolei might have softened, might have caved. Not today. He looked at his wife's tear-streaked face and felt nothing but a deep, cold sorrow. Even now, her only thought was how to extract money from him. Not a single reflection on how their marriage had collapsed to this point. Shall we? Guolei's voice was quiet, but carried a devastating finality. Remember when Yaya was 3? Fever of 104. Hospitalized. I was at a critical project phase. Taking leave meant losing pay, maybe hurting my promotion chances. You called your mom, asked her to help for 2 days. What did your mom say? Su Xiaoyi's sobs hitched. Hao's been in a bad mood. I need to stay with him.
Can't get away.
Handle it yourselves. Su Xiaoyi went rigid. In the end, my mom took an overnight train and spent a week taking care of Yaya. Guolei continued. And your mom took Moody Su Hao on a leisure trip. Zhang Yufin's face twisted in embarrassment. That was a special situation. Special situation? Guolei turned to her. Every time Su Hao had a special situation that required cash, did you ever think about whether our situation was special? Saving for a house? Yaya's schooling. He looked back at Su Xiaoyi. His gaze bored into her. Xiaoyi, you keep saying Hao is your own brother. What about Yaya? Isn't she your own daughter? Why, every time you have to choose, do you sacrifice her for your brother without a second thought? In your heart, where does our family of 3 actually rank? Su Xiaoyi had no answer. Her face was sheet white. Her body swayed. Su Zhengwo saw the emotional appeal failing. He ripped off the last shred of pretense and slammed the coffee table. Guolei, stop dancing around. We're asking one question. Are you handing over the 500,000 or not? Zhang Yufin screeched in chorus. Right. No money. Divorce. The house was bought after marriage. Xiaoyi gets half. The savings belong to both of you. We'll still get the money for Hao's house even after divorce. Su Hao joined in. Divorce? Let my sister take half. See who's scared now. There it was. The final gambit. Divorce and property division as a threat. Exactly what Guolei had predicted. The last card they thought they held against him. Guolei stood slowly. He walked to the study door, opened it, and retrieved a thick manila envelope. Back in the living room, under every pair of eyes, he placed it on the coffee table. It landed with a soft, heavy thump. Divorce? Fine. His voice was calm. The 4 Su family members felt their hearts clench simultaneously. But before we talk about dividing assets, there are a few things you need to see. He opened the envelope and pulled out documents. The first was a copy of the property deed and detailed mortgage payment records from the bank. He had marked up the source of the down payment and the early repayment records in red. This house. Down payment. 650,000. 200,000 came from my parents. I have the bank transfer records and their testimony proving it was a pre-marriage gift to me personally for the house. That portion is my separate property. The remaining 450,000 down payment, plus all subsequent mortgage payments, came from our joint account. However, based on payment history, over 85% of monthly mortgage payments came from my salary card. Your salary, went mostly to household expenses, your personal spending, and he paused, looking at her, flowing into the Sue family. In a divorce property division, the court considers contribution ratios, source of funds, and other factors. It's not a simple 50-50 split. With my evidence and contribution level, securing 70% or more of the property share is very likely. Sue froze. She had never thought about it this way. Zhang Yufan panicked. You're lying. House bought after marriage is joint property. Bought after marriage defaults to joint. But differing contribution levels lead to differing division ratios. That's the law. Guolei's tone was flat. Should I have my lawyer friend explain it to you? He pulled out the second document. Printed bank statements and deposit records. These are the current balances of our main accounts. Joint savings, $327,400. Of that, $280,000 came from my project bonuses and salary savings over the past 3 years. Clear deposit records exist. In the same period, your salary contributions to joint savings were negligible or negative, after deducting your personal spending and transfers to the Sue family. Under the Civil Code, a spouse who conceals, transfers, sells off, damages or squanders joint property, or forges joint debt to encroach on the other's property, may receive a reduced share or nothing at all in a divorce division. Guolei's eyes rested on Sue your long-term, large sum, unauthorized transfers of joint property to Sue Hao and your parents, with evidence that some of it was squandered on failed investments and luxury purchases, legally constitutes squandering joint property. In dividing these $327,000, you may not only fail to receive half. You might have to use your share of other assets to compensate my losses. Sue felt like she'd been struck by lightning. Her body went numb. She didn't know the law, but Guolei spoke with such certainty she couldn't doubt him. Impossible. You're bluffing. Sue Hao shouted. Sister, don't listen to him. Divorce means equal split. Guolei ignored him. He drew out the third document, the thickest one. It was a compilation of key evidence he'd organized over the past few days. Screenshots of annotated transfers, relevant chat logs, Sue Hao admitting loans, Zhang Yufan admitting diverting funds, transcripts of key recordings, and the damning summary table showing the $420,000. He pushed it to the center of the coffee table. This is a sample of key evidence from the past 7 years. Loans, gifts, time, amount, reason, witness statements, physical evidence. The smaller amounts may be hard to claw back. But the big ones, the $80,000 for the car, the $35,000 for the tea shop, with clear acknowledgments of debt from Sue Hao, those can be established in divorce proceedings as Sue Hao's personal debt to Xiaowei, or as unjust enrichment that must be returned. He looked at Sue Hao's whitening face and his in-laws' crumbling expressions. Once litigation starts, I'll apply for asset preservation. Sue Hao, that car bought with $80,000 of joint funds, will be the first target. And if the court rules the money must be repaid and Sue Hao can't pay, then as multiple recipients of large sums with knowledge of the source, you, mom and dad, may bear joint repayment liability. Your old house might not be so secure. Of course, lawsuits take time. They're messy. I'm not in a hurry. Guolei leaned back, hands clasped over his knee. I have a stable job.
Time.
And ample evidence. What about you? Can Hao's wedding wait? Mom, Dad, can you handle every neighbor and relative whispering about your son being sued and you having to sell your house to pay debts? Every word was a killing blow. Su Zhengwo clutched his chest and gasped. Zhang Yufan's lips trembled. She wanted to curse, but no sound came. Genuine terror had seized her. She wasn't afraid of Guolei. She was afraid of lawsuits, losing face, and actually losing property. Sue Hao looked like a corpse. He could already see his car seized, his girlfriend walking away, himself becoming the laughingstock of everyone he knew. Su Xiaohui stared at the damning documents on the table, then at her parents' and brother's panicked faces, then at her cold, resolute husband across from her. It hit her fully for the first time. Guo Lei was dead serious. This wasn't a fight. This wasn't a threat. This was a declaration of war. And he was armed to the teeth. She and the birth family she'd blindly defended were utterly defenseless against his prepared evidence and the rules he wielded. Everything they'd always relied on, emotional blackmail, tearful coercion, divorce threats, crumbled to dust against cold legal facts and ruthless calculation. Guo Lei watched the terror and despair play across their faces.
He knew the moment was ripe.
Finally, from the bottom of the envelope, he withdrew two bound, formal documents. One was the clean printout of the post-nuptial property agreement. The other was a draft of the divorce agreement. He laid them side by side on top of the evidence pile.
Now,
the choice is yours. Sign the post-nuptial property agreement. The $420,000. I set it aside. No further pursuit. But from now on, I control the household finances. Xiaohui may not subsidize Su Hao in any form. Support for your parents follows the law. Su Hao's house and wedding are not our concern.
Or,
he tapped the divorce agreement. Sign this. We'll see each other in court. I will apply for asset preservation. I will sue for debt recovery. I will demand division of the house and savings. And I will pursue full custody of Yaya, on grounds that Xiaohui has consistently neglected our household, lacks stable financial resources if she keeps giving money away, and that the family environment is detrimental to the child's well-being. My odds are very good. He lifted his eyes.
Ice.
Choose. Su Zhengwo's hands started shaking. Zhang Yufin's tears finally fell. Not performance. Genuine panic. Su Hao, deflated like a punctured balloon, slumped on the couch, eyes vacant. Su Xiaohui looked at the two documents that would decide her fate, then at the husband who was now a stranger. Regret and despair crashed over her like a tide. As she opened her mouth, no sound came, only tears, silently flooding out. Guo Lei just sat there, waiting, like a patient hunter watching the trapped prey's final struggle. He knew that the 7-year farce was finally drawing to a close, and the new rules would be written by him. Guo Lei's finger rested lightly on the signature line of the post-nuptial property agreement. His eyes drifted over Su Zhengwo's bloodless face, Zhang Yufin's quivering lips, Su Hao's hollow stare. They came to rest on his wife's desperate, tear-soaked eyes. Sign. Or don't sign. His voice wasn't loud, but it hit like a hammer. Su Zhengwo's throat worked violently.
He tried to speak.
Only a rasping wheeze came out. Zhang Yufin grabbed Su Xiaohui's arm, nails digging in, voice cracking. Xiaohui, you can't sign this. If you sign, you lose everything. What about Hao? What about us?
Su Hao seized the lifeline.
Sister, don't listen to him. He's bluffing. What brother-in-law sues his own family? Everyone will laugh at him. Su Xiaohui was shaken back and forth by her mother and brother. Her vision blurred with tears. She looked at Guo Lei, the husband who used to be gentle. Now his eyes were a stranger's. Frozen. She was afraid. Afraid of losing her marriage, losing her daughter, facing court, facing her parents' and brother's accusing eyes. But what terrified her more was Guo Lei's absolute, calculating ruthlessness. She knew he wasn't joking. Those documents, those clauses, every line was a chain waiting to bind her and her birth family. Her lips trembled. She looked down at the agreement on the table. The clauses were cold and sharp. Clause 1. Acknowledge that approximately 420,000 yuan was taken from joint property by Su Xiaohui and her relatives. The sum is not pursued for now, but from the effective date, it is deemed Su Hao's personal debt to Su Xiaohui, separated from Guo Lei. Guo Lei waives the right to pursue this debt, but Su Xiaohui may not use joint property to repay it. Clause 2. All deposits and investment accounts are transferred to Guolei's sole management. Su Xiaohui retains the right to know but has no independent disposal rights. Monthly household expenses are allocated by Guolei. Clause 3. Su Xiaohui agrees not to gift or lend more than 5,000 yuan of property to her parents or brother without Guolei's written consent, nor guarantee any debts for them. Clause 4. Support for both sets of parents follows the law and their financial ability. No excess. Any financial needs of Su Xiaohui's parents related to Su Hao, including housing, cars, weddings, business, shall not touch joint property or Guolei's separate property.
Clause 5.
If Su Xiaohui violates any of clauses 2, 3, or 4, it constitutes severe harm to joint interests. Guolei may immediately file for divorce and demand Su Xiaohui receive nothing from the property division, and the debt forgiveness in Clause 1 becomes void. Guolei may pursue all 420,000 from Su Xiaohui and related responsible persons. Every clause was a knife, severing the umbilical cord of endless giving between her and her birth family, and severing her rights over the household finances. This wasn't an agreement. It was a surrender treaty. Humiliating. Guolei, she finally broke, voice soaked in tears and a last thread of pleading. Can't you leave me even a little room? You control all the money. What do I have left? Am I even still your wife? Guolei looked at her. A faint ripple crossed his eyes, then faded to stillness. Room? He repeated the word slowly. Shall we? When you kept handing our money to your brother, when you silently let your parents pressure me into emptying our savings, did you leave me any room? Did you leave Yaya any room? Sign this. You're still Yaya's mother, still the mistress of this house. In name. Don't sign. He pointed at the divorce agreement. Then you're nothing. Including Yaya. The last 3 words shattered her. She could endure poverty, injustice, even a cold husband. She could not lose her daughter. Yaya was her flesh and blood, the only real warmth left in this wrecked marriage. I'll sign. She closed her eyes. Tears streamed down. She pushed the words out like they were her last breath. Shall we? Zhang Yufan screamed. Sister, are you insane? Su Hao roared. Su Zhengwo lurched to his feet, staggered, and collapsed back down. He pointed at Guolei, finger trembling. Poison. Guolei, your heart is poison. You're trying to destroy this whole family. Guolei ignored the parents' collapse and Su Hao's rage. He pushed a pen across the table towards Su Xiaohui. Sign. Her hand shook as she picked up the pen. The tip hovered over the signature line, trembling violently. It left a blot of ink. She stared at the agreement, then looked up at her raging parents and brother, then at her husband's expressionless face. The pain of being torn in two nearly split her open. On one side, the birth family that raised her and drained her dry. On the other, a 7-year marriage where she was about to lose all financial autonomy and dignity. Either choice was an abyss. Time stretched. Seconds crawled. The living room held only Zhang Yufin's stifled sobs and Su Hao's ragged breathing. Finally, Su Xiaohui's pen started to descend. The first stroke was about to land. Wait! Su Hao, slumped and ghost-faced on the couch, shot up like a spring. His eyes were bloodshot. They locked onto Guolei with a mix of desperation and crazed viciousness.
Guolei.
You're ruthless. You think you've got us completely trapped. He yanked out his phone, fingers swiping frantically across the screen. Then he shoved it inches from Guolei's face. Look at this. Guolei's eyes dropped to the screen. It was a photo of a handwritten IOU.
Borrower, Guolei. Lender, Suao.
Amount, 500,000 yuan. Date, 3 months ago. Reason, house purchase loan. Below, Guolei's signature. And a red thumbprint. Guolei's pupils contracted. Time seemed to stop. Silence crushed the room. Only Su Hao's ragged, panting breaths.
Loud.
Triumphant. Zhang Yufin's crying cut off. She lifted her head, bewildered, looked at her son, then at the phone photo. A wild, manic gleam ignited in her dull eyes. Su Jiangwo struggled upright and peered at the screen. The gray defeat on his face warped into something desperate and hopeful. Su Xiaohui's hand froze in midair. She stared at the IOU on her brother's phone, then whipped her head toward Guilei.
Shock.
Confusion. And something she didn't even recognize, fear. Guilei stared at the photo. 5 full seconds. Then he slowly lifted his eyes to Su Hao, whose face was flushed with excitement and adrenaline. Forged IOU. Guilei's voice was still steady, even held a strange note of recognition.
Suao.
So you finally went there. Su Hao blinked at his calmness. Then his face twisted with anger. Bullshit.
Who forged anything?
It's in black and white. Your thumbprint. Guilei, you want to deny it? No way. You already lent me this 500,000. Now you're trying to use some agreement to force my hand? Dream on. This money. You owe it to me. Zhang Yufin grabbed the lifeline like a drowning woman.
Yes.
Yes. Lei, how could you? You clearly lent Hao the money ages ago. Now you turn around and attack us. Force us to sign this humiliating agreement? Has your conscience been eaten by dogs? Su Jiangwo seemed to refill with confidence. His back straightened. Guilei, explain this IOU.
Right now.
Or we'll take this to court. Debt must be repaid. That's the law. In an instant, the momentum seemed to flip. A sudden IOU had apparently pulled Guilei from the rulemaker to the debtor. Su Xiaohui watched her family's instantly transformed faces, then looked at her still silent husband. Her heart hammered. A deeper, more ominous dread clawed at her. She knew Guilei. He would never casually write a 500,000 IOU, especially not when their relationship had already rotted this far. Guilei, her voice shook. Is this IOU real? Guilei didn't answer her. He just looked at Su Hao. The corner of his mouth even curved into a faint, mocking arc. IOU. 500,000. He savored the words. Su Hao. Are you sure that signature and thumbprint are mine? Of course they're yours. Whose else? Su Hao thrust the phone closer, zooming in on the signature.
Look.
Guilei. And the thumbprint. Ironclad proof. Really? Guilei nodded. Date is 3 months ago. Convenient. Let me check my bank records from 3 months ago. He picked up his own phone and started tapping unhurried. 3 months ago. June. My main salary account shows income of 23,000. Project bonus, 50,000. Total, 73,000. Major outflows, mortgage 6,500. Car loan 3,000. Household transfer to Xiaohui 10,000. Yeye's kindergarten 5,000. Personal spending around 3,000. Net increase for the month, about 47,000. He looked up at Su Hao.
Telme, Suao.
How did I lend you 500,000 when my total income for the month was 73,000 and all my expenses were normal? Did I rob a bank? Win the lottery? Su Hao's face stiffened. Who says it had to be cash? Maybe you transferred from another account. Or it was previous savings. Other accounts?
Guilei smiled.
I can pull up every bank account, Alipay, and WeChat Pay statement in real time. Should I log in now and print out the last year's worth of flows? Let's see if there's a single 500,000 transfer or cumulative total heading to Su Hao's account.
Suao choked.
His eyes started darting. Zhang Yufin scrambled to help. Then maybe it was cash. Yes.
Cash.
Lei, you gave Hao cash. Cash. Guilei turned to her, eyes sharp. Mom, do you know what 500,000 in cash looks like? It weighs about 10 pounds. Volume-wise, an ordinary backpack won't hold it. Withdrawing 500,000 in cash requires advance notice at the bank. The bank has records. Large cash withdrawals leave clear traces. Should I call the bank's customer service right now to check? Or we can all go to the bank together and pull the large withdrawal records for my accounts from the past 6 months. Zhang Yufin's mouth gaped. No words. Su Jiangwo started sweating again. And one more thing. Guo Lei pressed on, tone still even, but now precise as a scalpel. The physical IOU. Su Hao, you say I wrote it 3 months ago. Then the paper, the ink, the fingerprint pad, they all age. Modern forensic document examination can identify recently forged documents easily, especially if the signature on this IOU is traced. He paused. His eyes cut like lightning into Su Hao. And I, coincidentally, keep original samples of all my important signatures. The property purchase contract from 7 years ago. Promotion documents from 5 years ago. Recent official sign-offs. Should I bring them out? Compare them with the signature on your IOU? Or simpler. Guo Lei opened a folder on his own phone. Several photos inside. I have a habit. Important handwritten documents, including occasional IOUs or receipts I've written. I photograph them. Fortunate for me, I have photos of my signature from different periods. Not a single one on this kind of paper. Not a single one where the layout of signature and thumbprint matches your IOU. He turned his phone towards Su Hao. Clear photos of signatures. Consistent style. But visibly different from the Guo Lei on Su Hao's IOU in stroke, pressure, and connecting habits. Visible to the naked eye. Su Hao's face cycled from red to white to green. The hand holding his phone began to shake uncontrollably. He never imagined Guo Lei could be this meticulous. Even keeping signature samples. You're lying. You wrote it. You just forgot. Su Hao made one last stand, but his voice was hollow. Bluster with nothing behind it. Forgot. Guo Lei pocketed his phone and leaned forward. The pressure was crushing. A 500,000 loan and I forgot? Su Hao, forging evidence, especially a high-value IOU with intent to seize property in divorce proceedings. Do you know what that's called? Do I need to spell it out? His voice dropped to a blade's edge. Criminal law. Article 266.
Fraud.
Article 280. Forgery of seals of companies, enterprises, institutions, or people's organizations. Yours is a private IOU, but with severe circumstances, it still touches criminal liability, especially if you try to file this fake IOU in court. That's false litigation. That compounds the charges. If this sticks, it's not just about paying money back. It's prison, Su Hao. The word landed like 2 ice picks in Su Hao's heart. His legs gave out. He nearly collapsed. His phone clattered onto the coffee table. No. I didn't forge anything, he babbled. All viciousness and triumph evaporated. Only boundless terror remained. Zhang Yufin and Su Jiangwo were completely dumbfounded. They thought their son had pulled a trump card. They never imagined that so-called trump card would crumble so utterly and become evidence of their son's crime instead.
How?
What is this IOU really about? Su Jiangwo was frantic, furious. Su Hao shook all over. He looked at his parents' rage, his sister's shocked disappointment, and Guo Lei's eyes that seemed to see straight through him. His psychological defenses imploded. I found a template online, the signature. I traced it from an old photo of brother-in-law's signature, the thumbprint. I used red ink. He clutched his head and crouched down. His voice cracked into a sob. I just wanted to scare him. I didn't mean for anything real to happen. I didn't know it was a crime. The truth. Laid bare. A clumsy forgery. A laughable threat. Zhang Yufin's vision went dark. She nearly fainted. Su Jiangwo shook with rage, pointing at his son, unable to speak through violent coughing. Su Xiaowei looked at her brother, crouched and trembling on the floor. At her panicked parents. At the humiliating agreement on the table she had almost signed. At the photo of the forged IOU. A wave of absurdity and exhaustion washed over her. And a terrible, clarifying awareness. This was the family she had always defended. This was the brother she had sacrificed her own household to support.
Greedy.
Stupid. Utterly without bottom lines. Willing to commit crimes just to keep taking. And her husband had seen it all coming. Had prepared for everything. In this battle, she and her family had been doomed from the start. Not defeated by Guolei's coldness. Defeated by their own greed and stupidity. Defeated by raw reality and hard rules. Guolei bent down and picked up Su Hao's phone from the coffee table. He closed the forged IOU photo. Then he looked at Su Hao's deathly pale face. I can choose not to pursue the forged IOU. Su Hao's head snapped up. A spark of desperate hope. But Guolei's next words shoved him deeper into the ice. In exchange, Guolei picked up the post-nuptial property agreement and flipped to the supplementary clause section on the last page. First,
Su Hao.
You will write a written confession regarding the forgery of this IOU and your attempted extortion.
Signed.
Thumbprint. The original stays with me.
Second.
From today, you, along with Mom and Dad, will not demand money from me or Su Xiaowei under any pretext. You will not interfere with our household, including contacting Yeye, without my consent. Third, the three of you will produce a written acknowledgement regarding the inappropriate extraction of money over the past 7 years. You will confirm the nature of these funds as unjust enrichment or debt and commit to ceasing all related harassment. Fourth, Su Hao's house and wedding have nothing to do with us. If there is any further disturbance on this matter, the forged IOU evidence goes to the police immediately, with all supporting materials. Each demand landed like a blow. Su Hao's face sank further into ashes. The in-laws' eyes dimmed with despair. This wasn't just financial severance. This was public humiliation. Total relational rupture. The last shred of their cover and delusion, shredded completely. Agree to these 4 points and fulfill them. Guolei pushed the agreement and penned towards Su Xiaowei again. You can sign the post-nuptial property agreement. The 420,000 remains unpursued. Refuse. His eyes went arctic. I dial 110 right now. Report Su Hao for evidence forgery and attempted fraud. Simultaneously, the divorce lawsuit launches tomorrow. With full debt recovery. Choose. No third path. Against absolute evidence and the crushing weight of the rules, every tantrum and emotional manipulation became a joke. Su Hao collapsed on the floor. Soul gone. Zhang Yufan covered her face and wept. Not performance. Real despair. Real regret. Su Jiangwo seemed to age a decade in an instant. His back curved. He let out a long, exhausted sigh. That sigh was filled with bottomless fatigue and surrender. He looked at his daughter. His voice was hoarse and brittle. Shall we sign it?
Dad.
Su Hao lifted his head in disbelief. Shut up. Su Jiangwo roared. His eyes were savage as he glared at his son. You haven't caused enough trouble? You want to go to prison? Su Hao flinched from his father's glare. He pulled his head in and shut his mouth. Zhang Yufan's crying subsided into sniffles. She looked at her daughter. Her expression was complicated. Pleading.
Guilt.
But mostly a numb acceptance. Su Xiaowei looked at her family in this state. It felt like needles piercing her heart. She was numb from the pain. She finally understood. From the day she married Guolei, maybe earlier, her life had been destined to be torn between the endless demands of her birth family and the struggle to hold her own household together. Stretched.
Drained.
And today, Guolei had forced her to choose in the cruelest way. And forced her to see reality. With a shaking hand, she picked up the pen again. This time, no hesitation. The pen descended. Su Xiaowei. The 3 characters landed clearly on the designated signature line. Then, as Guolei instructed, she pressed her thumb into the red ink pad and stamped it beside her name.
Red. Piercing.
Like blood seeping from her heart. Guolei took the agreement. He inspected the signatures and thumbprints. Confirmed. He put the document away. The confession and acknowledgement. Tomorrow evening. I want them. He looked at Su Hao and his in-laws. His tone left no room. Electronic copies to my WeChat. Hard copies mailed to my office. Recipient: Guolei. Su Hao kept his head down. A muffled acknowledgement. Fine. Zhang Yufin and Su Jiangwo were silent. Tacit acceptance. Guolei stopped looking at them. He turned to Su Xiaohui. Yeye's at my parents'. I'll bring her back tomorrow. As for you, he paused. Figure yourself out. He picked up the envelope with all the evidence and agreements and walked toward the door. Guolei. Su Xiaohui's voice stopped him. He paused. Didn't turn around. Can we ever go back to how it was before? Her voice was raw and small and carried a hopeless hope. Guolei was silent for a few seconds. Before, he repeated softly. His voice held no emotion. There's no going back. With this agreement signed, we're legally married. Yeye's parents. As for feelings, he pulled the door open and walked out. The door clicked shut behind him and shut off the last light in Su Xiaohui's eyes. The living room was left with a crushing silence. 3 shattered souls. And a cold agreement that had bought out the past and imprisoned the future. Su Xiaohui stared at the closed door, then at her brother, huddled on the floor like a condemned man. At her parents, suddenly ancient and hollow. Tears slid down her face again.
Silent.
But this time, they weren't tears of grievance or pleading. They were complete and final desolation. She knew. Some things, once broken, can never be put back together.
Trust.
Family. And the marriage she once believed would last a lifetime. The days after the agreement's signing were calm on the surface. Beneath it, currents churned. It was still the same house. But the atmosphere had transformed completely. Guolei and Su Xiaohui barely spoke beyond necessary exchanges about Yeye. The silence was oppressive. Even Yeye seemed to sense it and became unusually well-behaved, rarely fussing. Guolei took possession of every bank card and passbook. He left Su Xiaohui a supplementary credit card with a low limit for daily purchases. The bills came directly to him for payment. On the 1st of every month, he transferred 5,000 yuan to her WeChat. Household expenses. Not a cent more. Su Xiaohui's salary card, he didn't touch it. But the agreement stipulated her income was joint property, and any large expenditure still required disclosure. In practice, beyond her own small expenses, she quietly saved most of it.
Silent protest, perhaps.
Or perhaps, finally, she was starting to think about her own and her daughter's future. The in-laws' side fell completely silent. No phone bombardments. No WeChat greetings. Su Hao's confession and the acknowledgement of unjust enrichment arrived the following evening, as demanded. The hard copies came by courier a week later.
Sloppy handwriting.
Reluctant wording. But all the required elements were there. Signatures. Thumbprints. Complete. Guolei locked those documents, along with the agreement and evidence copies, into a bank safety deposit box. Zhao Mingyuan's advice. Protection against desperate acts, destruction, or theft of evidence. Su Hao's marriage prospects, predictably, evaporated. The girl called Xiaoya cut contact entirely within days of the IOU fiasco. Word was Su Hao spiraled into a long depression. But this time, there was no one to bail him out. Zhang Yufin pulled strings to get him a few job interviews. Too tiring. Not enough pay. The same old tune. He stayed home, mooching off his parents. Su Jiangwo sighed and complained. Zhang Yufin wept, but neither dared breathe a word in front of their daughter and son-in-law. Occasionally, Su Xiaohui would receive a secret call from her mother. Complaints about hardship. Curses against Guolei's ruthlessness. Hints that her daughter should think of something. Su Xiaohui just listened in silence. Maybe a grunt here and there. Never engaged. Never promised. The calls grew less frequent. Life settled into a grotesque equilibrium. But Guolei knew how fragile it was. He could see the resentment and bitterness piling up in Su Xiaohui's eyes. She was only temporarily cowed by the agreement and the law, beaten down by her family's pathetic collapse. Once she recovered, or her family stirred up new trouble, the peace could shatter at any moment. He had to accelerate. The school district house. That was the next objective. A move that would cement his dominant position and sever the Sue family's lingering delusions for good. One Saturday afternoon, Gwilay took Yaya to see the school district development they had targeted before. A new phase was about to launch. Prices had climbed again since 6 months ago. With their current savings, mostly Gwilay's accumulation, plus their housing fund, the down payment was still short by nearly $300,000. A gap of $300,000. Before, Gwilay might have hesitated, delayed, tried to save more. Now, he didn't want to wait. Yaya would start elementary next autumn. The clock was ticking, and he needed to show Sue Shalwi and the Sue family that, freed from their endless drain, he had the ability and determination to build a better future for himself and his daughter. He called Zhao Mingyuan. Mingyuan, you mentioned your firm's client platform sometimes has decent investment or short-term capital opportunities. Zhao Mingyuan laughed on the other end. Why, old Gua, looking to hustle on the side to fill the school district house gap. Yeah, short by $300,000. Can't wait. Won't wait. Gwilay was blunt. Anything reliable? Short cycle. Decent return. Manageable risk. I can probably free up about $150,000. $150 to make $300 short-term is either high risk or has barriers. Zhao Mingyuan thought for a moment. But you might be in luck. Our firm is doing due diligence on a tech company. Pre-A round. Small quota, but solid prospects. Founding team is overseas returnees. Strong tech. One of the early angel investors wants to offload a small portion of shares for personal reasons. The stake is tiny. Price is fair. Around $300,000. Timeline depends on the next funding round. Could be within a year. Could be 2 or 3. Risk is real, but more grounded than pure market speculation. Interested? I can make introductions. Show you the business plan and due diligence reports. Yeah, send me the materials. A few days later, Gwilay had studied the tech company's documents thoroughly and quietly consulted 2 contacts in investment circles. He decided it was a genuine opportunity. The $300,000 wasn't small, but relative to the down payment gap and the future appreciation potential, it was worth the gamble. More importantly, a successful investment wouldn't just solve the housing problem. It would prove to Sue Shalwi and to himself that his judgment was sound. He exercised the authority the agreement gave him. He moved $150,000 from their joint savings, added $100,000 he had quietly saved on the side. Sue Shalwi had no knowledge of this, and borrowed $50,000 from his parents. He put together $300,000. Through Zhao Mingyuan's channel, he completed the share transfer. He told Sue Shalwi nothing during the process. Only after the equity agreement was signed and the funds transferred did he mention it casually after dinner one evening. I invested in a project. Use some money. If it goes well, the school district down payment should be covered before Yaya starts school next year. Sue Shalwi was clearing the dishes. Her hands stopped mid-motion. She looked up shocked. You invested in what? How much? Why didn't you discuss it with me? The agreement says I make the major household investment decisions. Gwilay wiped down the table. $300,000. Equity in a tech company. Expected return covers the down payment gap. $300,000. Sue Shalwi's voice pitched up. The bowls clattered into the sink. Gwilay, are you crazy? That's $300,000. Not 300. How can you just decide this on your own? What if it fails? What about Yaya's school? If it fails, I'll figure something else out. Gwilay looked at her. His eyes were steady. At least this $300,000 is going toward something real. Toward our daughter's future. Not like before. Hundreds of thousands thrown into your brother's bottomless pit. Not even an echo. Sue Shalwi's face went white. Her chest heaved. You have to compare it like that? That's all in the past. I signed the agreement. What more do you want? And now you gamble this much money on some risky scheme. Isn't that squandering joint property? Investment carries risk. But based on professional judgment and research, it's legitimate asset allocation. Completely different from mindlessly filling a hole. Guolei set down the cloth. As for the agreement, you sign it, you follow it. I'm exercising my rights. Problem. Guolei. You bastard. Days of accumulated bitterness exploded. Tears burst from Su Xiaoyi's eyes. You just want to control everything. Clutch all the money. Guard me like a prisoner. Is this even a marriage anymore? Whether this is a marriage doesn't depend on who controls the money. Guolei's voice went cold. It depends on whether you and your family can understand your place. Whether you can truly put this household first. He stepped closer, eyes boring into her.
Su Xiaoyi.
Ask yourself, since signing the agreement, have you truly reflected on anything? Have you proactively made any plan for this family? For Yeya's future? Or does your mind still run on how to hide money from me, save scraps from your fingers, and funnel it to your never-growing brother? To pacify your never-satisfied parents? She flinched under his stare, instinctively looking away. But her mouth wouldn't yield. I haven't. You're slandering me. Whether you have or haven't, you know. Guolei didn't press further. He turned toward the study. I invested that 300,000 for Yeya. If you think this life can't go on, the agreement has an exit clause. You can file for divorce anytime. The word divorce hit like a bucket of ice water. It drowned her rising fury and woke her up. Divorce? Could she even afford divorce now? Leave with nothing? Lose custody of her daughter? Face potential debt recovery?
No, not now.
She watched Guolei enter the study and close the door. That door was a wall between two worlds. She slid down onto the kitchen floor, buried her face, and let the tears seep through her fingers. How did it come to this? All she ever wanted was a stable home.
For her birth family to be okay.
Why did she end up estranged from her husband, resented by her parents, caught in the middle with no dignity and no financial freedom? For the first time, she saw with brutal clarity how stupid and short-sighted her choices had been over the last 7 years. Her bottomless compromise and sacrifice had fed her family's greed and buried her marriage's trust and warmth with her own hands. Now, her husband had imprisoned her in this shell of a home with a piece of paper and cold reality. And she didn't even have the strength or the courage to break free. She could only watch as the distance between them grew wider. As the home became a hollow name, night deepened. The study light stayed on. Guolei was reviewing the tech company's latest white paper and market analysis. The screen's glow carved his focused face. He knew tonight's words had been heavy. They might escalate the conflict. He didn't care. He was done with slow-boil compromise. Either change completely, or end completely. He had given Su Xiaoyi a choice.
She chose to sign and stay.
Then she lived by his new rules. As for feelings, he closed the document and rubbed his temples. Maybe from the start, they had never been about pure feelings. Always mixed with calculation and extraction and unbalanced sacrifice. Now the warm veil was torn away, revealing the cold, hard skeleton beneath. Full, but at least real. He opened his phone's photo album, scrolled to pictures of Yeya. The little girl grinned without a care, eyes bright as stars. For her, everything was worth it. Guolei turned off the desk lamp. The study sank into darkness. Through the curtain gaps, the city's neon cast faint patches on the floor. Like his heart in this moment. Resolved, but holding a lonely weight no one else could share. He knew the path he had chosen would be walked on his knees, if necessary. And he had to win.